don't know about you, but things are really heating up here in the Hearthstone Grandmasters Global Finals at BlizzCon 2019. Welcome back to the main stage, everybody, as we just finished our first two matches where Lee will be playing against Surrender. That's right, an all-Eastern winners bracket finals happening in Group A. And with that, we're gonna put a temporary pause on Group A and head over to Group B, where things will get lit. Oh, they cut away before the fire was in the background. Well, that's a shame. Either way, I promise this match is going to be just as epic because we have 2017 World Champion tom60229 going up against VKLiooon, the first ever woman to make it to the world stage in Hearthstone Esports. That's an accomplishment and a half, and she is just getting started. So with that, the crowd is excited, we are ready. Let's introduce our players for Group B's initial match. The first player, she is the winner of the Gold Finals in Season 1 for the top 4, a top 2, and a 7-0. Please welcome to the stage, VKLiooon! Opponent, the 2017 World Champion, making his third unprecedented world stage appearance, the highest earner in Hearthstone history after this weekend. Please welcome tom60229. Players, please shake hands. Now let's get Group B underway.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, I'm back. My name is Sotul, joined by Just Saying. We are switching over to Group B, as Dan mentioned, and I am super excited to get into this one because just to add some clarity to what Frodan was saying there in the intro, Lion got here through an incredible performance in the China region. As Dan mentioned, she got 2nd place and 4th place in the China region, essentially their equivalent of what we have as Masters Tour events, if you want to frame it like that. And then through her actual qualification championship, went on a 7-0 undefeated run to go through. So she absolutely crushed Season 1 to get here, Sam.
Yeah, and the stage has never been bigger than here at BlizzCon itself. So VKLiooon facing up against Tom. In this match, I'm really looking to play the players and pit them against each other. I mean, Tom, the quintessential veteran, 3 times on the world stage, already a world champion. He might feel a little relaxed on stage, but that's because he's no stranger to it. But I'm sure he's looking to be the first repeat champion here.
Yeah, and as Frodan mentioned, he is incredibly likely to end this weekend as the top prize money earner in Hearthstone history. We believe as long as he just does not 0-2 out of this group, he is going to be in a position where Surrender, who is the only person who can currently catch him by picking up $200,000 for first place in this tournament, still will not be able to overtake him. And that would be an incredible achievement. I believe he'd overtake Tice at the top of that list as essentially the winningest player in Hearthstone history, which would be an incredible accomplishment. But as you see Lion getting herself ready there, saying, how do the lineups and the decks look in this series?
Yeah, as the lineup pans out, I believe Lion has brought more of a anti-control style lineup. Of course, they both have the Shaman and the Priest, but Lion has opted to bring the Hunter and the Malygos Druid, so a lot of ways to counter a potential warrior bring from an opponent. Tom has pretty much played it safe throughout. Tom has brought the Shaman, the Priest, and his 3rd and 4th are actually the Tempo Rogue and the Malygos Druid. So he's kind of a hybrid lineup. He's not too committed one way or the other, just kind of bringing the good decks. And every time I've seen Tom play throughout the GM season, you know, I'm getting the Kalento vibes all over again, where Tom is relaxed, but at the same time, his autopilot is still a force to be reckoned with. One of the top pro players, even when he seems to be in his comfort zone.
And his comfort zone very often looks like this, like on stream, where he's actually like leant back, actually chilling in his seat. I believe both players here. You saw the pick and ban graphic come up at the bottom of the screen there. Hopefully, both Shamans have been protected yet again. We're taking a look at another version of the token Shaman here from Lion. This one saying does not include the Thunderhead that we were talking about in the previous series. What do you think the reasoning behind that is?
The Shaman deck, not including Thunderhead, I believe.
Sorry, Stormbringer is what I meant to say.
Yes, the Stormbringer. So Tom and VKLiooon both have some interesting techs. Tom going with Plague of Murlocs, which is kind of an answer if he gets too far behind on the Shaman board in the mirror match to kind of just wisp that all away and turn them back into Murlocs. And VKLiooon going with a Lightning Storm. Again, a nod to the Shaman mirror. Both of these tech cards should perform very well in case they fall too far behind in the mirror matchup.
Yeah, it's something that I did want to ask about as well, because we've seen in the scramble for the top 16 ladder places towards the end of the seasons, a lot of Shamans have been playing even double Lightning Storm in their deck, because those matches at the very top of the ladder are something like 60% Shamans right now, so having Lightning Storm in the mirror is very, very effective. Since this was a Protect format, you'd also still be expecting to play a ton of Shaman mirrors coming into this tournament, right? So why aren't we seeing as many Lightning Storms in this tournament as we are on ladder?
I think players have been a little slow to commit to running the double frog and the full cycle package.
Okay.
But it's definitely been one of the defining factors of Shaman on the ladder at the moment. Just the ability to make a passive turn, force your opponent to react, and then go off a little bit later. We actually see that VKLiooon does not run Spear of the Frog in her Shaman deck, so perhaps a little late to the party on that tech decision.
Yeah, this is an argument that I had with Derek Brown at Bucharest, where he was, he's been High Legend with Shaman for the majority of the season, and during the period of time at Bucharest, he was not playing Frog in the deck. He was saying Frog was a bait, this card was wrong, like you just play a Murloc package instead and you win more matchups, which I was trying very hard to convince him was nonsense. He has since come around to the idea that Frog is in fact the nuts, which is something that I very, very much agree with. So I am surprised to see any of these players, especially one who's had as much success as Lion coming into this.
I'm sorry, actually Lion does have the Spirit of the Frog, I just happened to miss it on the deck list there.
Okay.
But, they're not fully committing to running things like double Lightning Storm there, at least.
Well, that makes me a lot happier at the very least. So Lion now does have Hair Evolve available, does also have Thunderhead available, does also have Soul of the Murloc available. So there's kind of 3 intersecting ways in which to fight back against this board state that Tom started to build up here.
And Tom definitely unhappy with the hand as of now, but he does happen to have the Plague of Murlocs, which is kind of like a blessing in disguise in this case. Right now, you're not happy seeing it early, but it is a really good reactive tool to VKLiooon's power turn coming up, which could potentially just be the Hair Evolve on the next turn. Tom deciding not to totem, right? Just keep the board size small, make sure that the Mogu doesn't come out too early.
Lion here just goes ahead and rips it. Oof.
That is a low roll if I've ever seen one, Sottle.
It is a horrible low roll, yeah. You are expecting 3 3/4s with 1 beneficial effect on average from your roll of Desert Hair Evolve. That is 0 3/4s. That is in fact a 4-1 and 2 2-3s. That is about as low a low roll as the 4 drops get, honestly, in that position.
And this Desert Hair Evolve was basically like a half-off deal, right? Like it seems like all these minions were lacking at least 2 or 3 points of stats.
Right.
But VKLiooon still slightly ahead on the board state because of the Hair Evolve, might be able to make it work out.
Yeah, now having this slight advantage, not as big as she would have liked. She does now have the opportunity to leverage this Thunderhead Zap curve. Then curving that potentially either into Soul of the Murloc or into Vicina, depending on whether she wants to prioritize damage or not.
Unfortunately not able to get the Sea Giant to come out this turn, but still it does seem pretty necessary for VKLiooon to go ahead and go for the Thunderhead here and establish her position on board.
Yep. Sea Giant will cast 2 after the Zap, I believe, as long as one of the Death Rattle minions is targeted. Still a fair way off being playable.
So VK Lion's spot, because she will be overloaded going to the next turn, there's no real threat of Bloodlust quite yet, but being ahead on board, she might be able to land, let's say, a Soul of the Murlocs, and then the board state becomes a lot more difficult for Tom to fight back on. So this is kind of the go turn for Tom, where he should be reacting, and at the same time, he does kind of have this unique failsafe, where he's one of the only Shaman players to be running the Plague of Murlocs, which coincidentally is quite good versus these Soul of the Murloc buff boards.
Yes, that's what sort of immediately occurred to me when I saw Plague of Murlocs being played. Is like, well, Soul of the Murloc is one of the most difficult things to deal with in the Shaman mirror, because almost no matter how many minions they have in play, the Shaman on the other side does have game against that. In fact, sometimes more so if there's more minions on the other side of the board. But just because, you know, a 5-minion board with Soul of the Murlocs on it takes 10 attacks to completely remove, that's almost impossible for them to do a lot of the time.
Yeah, this is certainly interesting. Tom deciding to go for the Soul of Murlocs here before the, or the Plague of Murlocs here, sorry, before the Soul of the Murlocs has been used from VK Lion's side. Do you think that's maybe a little preemptive in this case?
I do. I don't necessarily... I mean, I guess he didn't have too many great ways to fight back against the board here. Thunderhead Burst was reasonable. But it did seem like an overreaction to the board state that he was facing down, because there was no like really crucial must-kill minions on that board apart from the Thunderhead itself. I guess that's what he was scared of, right? Just the amount of damage that the Thunderhead can do with summoning 1/1.
Yeah, Tom actually getting quite a few... Wow, what a combination of rolls here, actually. The 5-drop actually has a text that reads, give all of your top minions +2 attack. And the 2-drop slot, I believe it's 5% chance or something like that to get a 2-drop taunt.
2%.
So roll 2% chance,
2%.
even lower, right?
Yep.
So rolling all 3 taunts and then the synergy to go along with it. This is kind of the wow. The hair evolves have not been very fair this game. But VK Lion, speaking of hair evolved, will have the opportunity to go for that yet again from her side.
Just considering what this Sea Giant board looks like, whether she'd rather have Soul of the Murloc, whether she'd rather have Sea Giant, Soul of the Murloc, no evolve. Like, there is a variety of ways. I mean, what you want to do is just do all of them and be really greedy, but unfortunately, that's not an option that's available to you. It looks like if that trade's happening, then the Sea Giant is not coming down this turn.
She does still have the ability to play the Sea Giant with the evolve. She's definitely considering playing now. I like that.
Sure. Okay.
And I definitely like trading in, because the 3-drop likely is not going to be able to contest the 4/3, and now it's a lot more difficult for Tom just to contest the Sea Giant here with what he has got on board.
And that is a much better looking second evolve for Lion.
As it turns out, the RNG is fairly evened out here for her. Now from Tom's side, a lot of contemplation here. He does realize that there is not many outs when the board state has gotten this out of control.
Right.
Are there any important 3-drops? Maybe potentially like a Wolf Rider to help clear something off? But Tom can also mutate that up to a 4th drop or a 6-drop here if he wishes.
Your presence offends me.
Seems more likely to have an impact.
There's little time.
Get damaged Stegotrons, can blood hoof, all that kind of madness.
Just the beginning.
Dr. Morgan could be a
Kind of interesting.
Sea Giant in disguise,
Yes.
potentially. So that could be helpful, but the game does look fairly over. It seems like VK Lion is going to wrap up the Shaman mirror here. The incoming Bloodlust from the other side.
There it is, Shaman mirror in the bank for Lion. Pushing the Bloodlust damage through. Tom is going to have to fight this series from 1-0 behind. Pretty much the same story as we saw in our first series of the day, but I think Lion will feel great about picking up her first big win on the global stage. And as I mentioned, it does seem like winning is a habit for her, because she got here in incredibly dominant fashion through the first competitive season of the China region leading into this global finals. And looks like she's continuing on that march up until this point.
And looking at the notes that I had for this matchup, I did give Tom a few percents in this matchup because VKLiooon being anti-control didn't quite hit what she wanted to from Tom's lineup.
Right.
Because making it best of 3, Tom is able to opt to play Shaman and Rogue and just omit the Druid from his lineup, which means that the Rogue is quite good versus rest of VKLiooon's lineup, and I do expect Tom to find a win with the Shaman eventually.
Well, we will have a chance to see if that's the case in the rest of this series. Plenty more important matches to go. Do not go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back after this break.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by
T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready.
MSI, True Gaming. Intel, the official CPU partner of BlizzCon. And by HyperX. We're all gamers.
2019炉石传说黄金公开赛今年的赛程已经过半，而在刚刚结束的天津站上，我们也见证了首位直通暴雪嘉年华特级大师赛全球总决赛门票的归属。来自 VK 战队的 Lion 以3战全胜的战绩夺得冠军，也成为了第一位参加暴雪嘉年华炉石传说项目比赛的女选手。我们在这里也为大家回顾一下 VKLiooon 在今年黄金公开赛上的出色表现。VKLiooon 这个 ID 第一次被广大玩家熟知，应该是在今年黄金公开赛的第一站青岛站上。在青岛站 ，VKLiooon 一路杀进决赛，成为了首个进入黄金公开赛决赛的女选手。可惜在决赛中不敌对手 LPPF， 最终遗憾的与冠军失之交臂。在之后的南昌站中 ，VKLiooon 再次杀入4强。虽然在半决赛中不敌神秘的萌萌哒鱼人萨的凶猛进攻，遗憾落败，但是稳定的发挥还是帮助 VKLiooon 成功晋级季后赛。随着黄金公开赛前3站的结束，今年黄金公开赛上表现最为出色的6位选手也脱颖而出。为了争夺全球总决赛的名额，为了赢下代表中国选手参战的荣誉，他们再次齐聚天津，开始了大师组第1赛季季后赛的精彩对决。VKLiooon 在首轮比赛上就遭遇了南昌站冠军影宗白情侣的挑战，面对对手的节奏贼 ，VKLiooon 轻松拿下一局。但是在第2局中遭遇到对手的顽强抵抗，中期一度陷入巨大劣势。不过最终还是依靠奇迹法的随从质量和法术控场，成功翻盘挺进第2轮。而第2轮比赛则是一组 VK 战队的同队厮杀。VKLiooon 面对自己的队友 VK 戴安娜毫不手软，直落2盘以2-0的比分击败对手，与黄金公开赛3冠王 W1 羽翼会师决赛。VKLiooon 在决赛中充分展现了奇迹法的出场能力，3-0击败 W1 羽翼，以7胜0负的全胜战绩夺得大师组第1赛季季后赛的冠军。经过了4站黄金公开赛的洗礼， VKLiooon 即将作为中国炉石选手代表踏上前往暴雪嘉年华的征程。作为首位参加暴雪嘉年华炉石传说项目的女选手，我们期待着 VKLiooon 在特级大师赛全球总决赛上依旧能够保持自己的出色发挥，为国争光，续写自己的传说。
Welcome back to the Hearthstone Grandmasters Global Finals here at BlizzCon. Lion is currently 1 game up over the 2017 World Champion himself, tom60229, and it was a Shaman mirror that win was picked up on earlier. And we were talking just before we went to break about how that affected the context of the series as a whole. But now, just during the break, we were considering the ban situation just a little bit. How do you think the bans really factor into this in this series? Because we didn't really cover it at the start.
Well, Sato, I was kind of expecting a very spicy series between Tom and VKLiooon. What happened was Tom had banned away VKLiooon's Hunter, and VKLiooon had banned away Tom's Rogue. And I'm not sure how she got the read that Tom might have chosen to go for the Hunter, because at this point, we're left with just basically Priest and Shaman mirrors, and none of the kind of more interesting decks, the third and fourth picks, able to even grace the playing field, as they've both been banned out.
It looks like we're going to get into this series. Lion here on the Priest keeps hold of a Northshire Cleric. I believe throws away Pyromancer there as well, which I'm sure some people might be a little bit surprised at. You know, based this token-based deck, Soul of the Murloc is a card that they play. A bunch of 1-health minions get played. But I certainly expect to see Pyromancer thrown away, especially going first. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for VKLiooon, she definitely wants to get control of the board early, because although the Evolved Shaman is one of the more aggressive decks on ladder, it doesn't really start that aggression until, say, turn 3 or 4.
Right.
And in that case, it gives the Priest a little bit of time to board that to build that board lead with Northshire Cleric, Tol'vir, things like that. And she kind of has the ideal curve here, where the Cleric is hidden behind the injured Tol'vir, and things like Lickum and Overload can't really reach it.
Because Lickum is very much like the card in this matchup, right? In terms of the Shaman win rate going through the roof, if they can just overload that Lickum 2 or 3 turns in a row, just so effective at being able to take care of the early minions from Priest.
Oh yeah, ideally for Tom, he would have set up the Lickum here and just bided his time with the Frog. Spirit of the Frog, definitely a very welcome card as well. Only second to the Lickum, so not a terrible hand for Tom either.
See Lion furiously taking some notes over on her side of the camera.
Yeah, Lion potentially just trying to guess at what that one keep from Tom might have been. Could have been Evolve, could have been Desert Hare, but I think she'll be quick to find out here that it is actually the Spirit of the Frog. And Lion, wow, what an aggressive hand mounting up from her side here.
And this is where that Plague of Murlocs tech from Tom starts to come into play again in a completely different matchup this time. Not the usage we were talking about before in the Shaman mirror, but a similar in the sense that if he didn't have a transform effect, he would be dead sooner rather than later in the way this game is panning out.
A tough turn for Tom. I mean, he had options here of either going for Desert Hare, Coin, Evolve, or loading up the Spirit of the Frog. But as a kept card, it does seem that's exactly what he wants to do. VKLiooon actually spotting potentially the 2-turn here. Yeah, immediately went for the Divine Spirit, Inner Fire. Now Tom has no real options against this except for the faithful tech card of Plague of Murlocs.
Yes. And so even crucially with the Spirit of the Frog on board, if that Plague of Murlocs wasn't in hand, I don't believe Tom can spend enough mana to cycle through and get the Plague of Murlocs and then play it, right? He'd have to play a 1-mana spell to draw the Soul of the Murloc to then draw the Plague, which would cost 6. So he'd have to start the turn with at least Soul of the Murloc in his hand to be able to cast it.
Right, exactly. You have to coin the Soul of the Murlocs. And in this case, actually getting the 1-drop spell and having it be the second Voltaic Burst is a big deal as well. Because prior to playing Plague of Murlocs, he's actually able to put out 5 minions onto the board and completely reverse the board state here.
Yeah, Plague of Murlocs coming in clutch for Tom.
Tom actually opting not to use the Voltaic Burst. I'm a little surprised because he did go for the coin. He might be going for Evolve here instead then. Not a bad Evolve, getting 2 4-drops out there.
Yeah, he is evolving a 3-4 into a 4-drop though, which on average is just a 3-4 anyway.
And for Tom, I think maybe he's just thinking about the overload for the following turn. Opts not to play the Voltaic Burst, seemingly because he wants to go for Desert Hare to Evolve, but if he's going to go for Zap this turn, that means he doesn't have the mana to go for Desert Hare Evolve on the following turn. Instead, he's probably going to have to reluctantly go for another Spirit of the Frog turn, play it passively again. So I'm a little surprised he didn't go for Voltaic Burst. It seemed like he was going to set up for Desert Hare Evolve, but in the end, decides to go for the Zap. So a little back and forth, I think, on Tom's game plan overall here.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if he like gave himself more flexibility to react to certain Murloc board states, like to use Voltaic Burst and Zap to clear or to evolve the things afterwards. That would take a lot of very boring maths to break down exactly how that situation pans out. But I certainly agree it looked very, very strange to me just on the surface to not play the second Voltaic Burst there.
And interesting to note here is that VKLiooon's res pool now is cluttered with Murlocs. The only thing that's died so far is the 3-2 Murloc, making Psychopomp pretty much just a mediocre 4-drop, but still pretty effective to fight the board state if that's what she chooses to go for here.
The alternative with Blade Master in hand is just make the big Blade Master this turn, get that into the Psychopomp pool. This makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm really liking the play you mentioned, Sato, just because it also heals up the Amalgam as well.
Right.
Just making sure that the Amalgam is not very well contested on the board as of now either.
So now with that evil totem draw, Tom might be a little more incentivized to play this Voltaic Burst that he held onto on the previous turn, so he can deal with the big threat of the Blade Master on the other side. Does he have to just take the turn investment in Spirit of the Frog again here?
I think the Spirit of the Frog does very little anymore. It's basically fetching out the second soul of the Murlocs.
Sure.
And you're, I mean, mind you, you're still at 11 health, right? So the potential for VKLiooon to close out the game is still very high. It seems like Tom is going to have to react at some point. The next turn will likely be the Hair Evolve turn that we were looking to the past few turns.
Right.
So currently in the rest pool is a 50-50 between the 3-2 Murloc and the injured Blade Master, which could have a very huge impact on the way this game pans out.
And that is an insane draw. The second 0-mana spell allows this Pyro to be a full board clear and still have 4 mana remaining to drop this Psychopomp afterwards.
I think Lion might actually hold on to that spell in case it is Blade Master, which would be
very fair.
A nice amount of surprise burst damage. Unfortunately, low rolls on the flip there, but still in a very commanding lead of the board state, actually setting up lethal on board here.
Yep. Yeah, that second topsy-turvy actually only ends up killing a 1-1 in that scenario. That is nothing
Toss
that keeps
here.
Tom alive. Ball's rolling into 5s. No, again. That is just 12 damage on board. And Lion, out of China, has upset the prior world champion. Although I'm reticent to even call it an upset based on the success and the power of her record that we have been told about so far from the Chinese region. You know, maybe this is just a continuation of her form throughout Season 1 in the Chinese region.
Yeah, and a deep bow, deep handshake there between Tom and Lion. Just seems like she has a lot of respect for one of the most decorated players in Hearthstone. And overall, I mean, Lion was nothing to scoff at there either. I think she saw those lines very instinctually. I liked how she basically at the start of turn 4 just knew that this was already 2-turn setup. If it wasn't Plague of Murlocs, the game ended here. So she spots those aggressive lines and the highest percent to close out the game. I'm liking the way she's been playing so far.
Yeah, and even then, I think the execution from that point onwards, you know, taking the Blade Master turn on the next turn after that, I think that looked right to me. And then just her setup on the following turn, just saying, hey, this represents lethal. Like, whether I roll the Blade Master or not, I'm still representing lethal with this Pyromancer clear alongside the Psychopomp. So I think that was a very, very clean series for her. I do think it was on like the simpler side of series to execute in terms of what she will play up until this point. So she may get tested more than this as the tournament goes on. But she has a win under her belt against the world champion, which I think is a great way to kick off the tournament for her.
Yeah, and I think Tom, outside of that one turn where it kind of feels like he overloaded. He wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do the next turn, right? Potentially this game, or this series entirely, could have panned out differently because Desert Hare Evolve being on the table on turn 5 could have made a big impact there.
Right. You can see Lion is sitting pretty in that winner's matchup, and now Pheno and Bloody Face are going to play out for the right to face against her. Both of these players have a huge amount on the line, and Gallon and Hunter Ace are standing by to talk you through it. Don't go anywhere, guys.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BlizzCon. Facebook Gaming, a world of play. Samsung SSD, performance gamers trust. Corsair, do your thing. And by NVIDIA,